Welcome to
Split the Defense,
where Jordan Webster, Ted Evans, and Craig Pearce talk about the NHL and all things hockey.
Split the Defense
Can be found wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. It's also broadcasted on Amherst Island Radio, 101.3 FM, and online at CJAI.CA.
Welcome, Split the Defense Hockey Podcast. Jordan Webster, Craig Pearce, and producer Ted Evans. It's Friday, and it's a Friday edition of our show.
You know we finally here, right?
What?
Well,
It's Friday then, it's Saturday, Sunday, what? It's Friday then, it's Saturday, Sunday, what? It's Friday again, it's Saturday, Sunday.
Boys. It's Friday.
Nice.
It's Friday. Gotta set the vibes. That's how we had to start the show. That's how we should start every Friday show, because it's Friday. Then it's Saturday, Sunday, weekend. Yes, we love it. Absolutely love it.
Oh, it's so good.
So we got a great show coming up today. We're going to talk Leafs. We got a little bit of CanCon, some north of the blue line. We got the Avs news. Avs are back. And then some cool things that are going on around the league. But the coolest thing we have happening is going to be near the end of the show. We have a special guest, Mickey Tui, coming on to break down the Minnesota Wild versus Toronto Maple Leafs on Sunday in Sweden. So we have questions about the Minnesota Wild and how everything affects the Leafs like usual. So why don't we start with the Leafs like we always do, Ted? Take us away.
All right. Okay, yeah. The Leafs had a mandated day of rest after travel. Do you guys think the travel is going to affect the guys' stamina? CP?
I think it's going to affect them all. Like they had to stay up extra late. They weren't allowed to go to sleep. It's got to affect them in some way, but the best thing is like everyone's on an even playing field, right? So I don't think it's going to really affect the games at all, but I'm not sure. Sometimes like adrenaline kicks in too when you're playing at weird hours. So, I mean, there's the potential that, you get like an adrenaline dump, but yeah, it's got to affect them in some way, like, right?
Oh, yeah. Jet lag, right? You think so, Webby?
Yeah, you should have seen them in their interviews. Oh, for sure. They definitely look jet lagged. Like Sheldon Keefe was a mess. He mentioned obviously other players. They wanted to go up to the room and try and take a nap, and he's like, no, like keeping them out of the rooms. He's like, no, stay away from your rooms. He wouldn't even let guys like picture a guy he's like trying to take. He's like, I'm just gonna take my bag up. Sheldon's like, no, you're not going to your room.
No rooms.
So he made them stay out like all the first day, so that way they wouldn't go have a nap, and then they go to bed that night, and then it's a mandated off day. I guess they were on the ice that day when they got off the plane too, which is crazy.
That is.
But yeah, so they're just trying to stay fresh, get a sweat in, is what they said, and get acclimated, that's the word, to the area. And I hope that because they don't play today, or on Thursday when we're recording, like the Red Wings and Senators and whoever else played today, it wasn't even, there was a replay on, never mind. Too much hockey going on in my life. Yeah, no, there was another game on at the same time. I'm like, oh, there's two games going. I'm like, oh, this is last night's game. They do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So like the Red Wings and Senators, since they didn't have to play today right away, right when they got off. I hope that it helps. I can see a whole bunch of them being affected. It might help a few guys though.
Yeah, that's right. So they're in Sweden. Willie, of course, Nylander, bought about 100 tickets for friends and family. Do we expect a bit of an uptick from all the Swedish players that are participating in these games? Do you think so, Webby?
Well, that's what I was thinking, yeah. So I
Big
think
time,
the,
right?
guys, the Swedish guys might, as much as you're all jet lagged, like they might be a little pumped to be back home.
Yeah.
And seeing all their family, the people who can't normally come spend time over there, friends. Like, you have to imagine, like, you have friends that aren't just going to come to North America, and now they can come and watch you play. I'm just like, right? Like, that's pretty awesome. So, like, my homies are at the game, and it's a big deal for these guys. So I think that a few of those guys are definitely going to get an uptick. I think the plane ride hurt everybody, but maybe the Swedish guys and one Swedish guy that we'll talk about later, John Klingberg. But I think those guys are definitely going to produce. Like, I can see Willie buying with the 100 tickets. He's going to show up. Like, he's going to play one hell of a game.
Yeah, I'd say they're also so much more used to making that flight an adjustment. Like Austin Matthews, when he flies home, there's no adjustment needed, right? But when Willie flies home, like he does it at least once a year, like he's used to doing that. Like he's done it his whole life, even as his dad was a pro. So yeah, I think that guys like that will have an advantage just because their body's more used to that process. But yeah, it's crazy that Willie has like 100 tickets bought for these two games. Like, I mean, is he making any money?
That out of him. Man, those interviews were so brutal when they got off the plane. Like, I didn't cut any clips because the guy had to save anybody who actually listens to our show. I wanted to keep them listening to our show. Those clips were so bad.
Right,
you just couldn't, right? I wasn't even going to bother. But, like, that's the funniest thing that they could get out of him. Because, like, what are you going to talk about? They also asked him, like, are you going to IKEA? Or have you taken the guys to IKEA? I was like, what are you going to ask, right? Like, they don't, like, nothing's happened yet. And the Leafs won the last two games, so...
Like,
yeah, when they asked Sheldon Keefe, like, what advice Willie told him, he was like, he told me to walk around. It's like, that's the advice you got? Like, walk around. Nice.
Yeah.
Like,
walk around.
What are you going to do? He's like, get up and get moving. Like,
walk
it was so bad. It's just, keep moving. That's what I'm going to do. Just, keep going, Like, it's so bad.
Yeah, go to bed.
Just the hard-hitting news, eh? So yeah, a bit of an uptick for the Swedish players, at least the ones that are participating. John Klingberg misses a third straight practice. David Alter said Sheldon Keefe says that chances are low that Klingberg plays on Friday. They were hoping he'd be able to skate today, but noted the travel probably didn't do him any favors.
That's what I was saying about the Swedish guy, yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy. So, yeah, the ones participating, I think, will have an uptick. But this guy, yeah. Leafs plan to use the gap between the games to have more aggressive treatment for Klingberg's injury, but chances are low he will be available for the first game in Sweden on Friday. So, no Klingberg. Connor Timmins, unlikely to play Friday as well, but possible for Sunday. So that's good.
I did want to chat on that 1 second.
Oh, yeah.
There,
okay.
About John Klingberg. Aggressive treatment is what I wanted to bring up. Now, that was brought up, I think, in another one of the shows I listened to, but he needs aggressive treatment?
They probably just want to get him in for Sweden, right?
Yeah, I feel like this is a back issue. This screams back to me because the flight didn't do him favors. Which how many of us have had just not gone into a flight without a back injury and you come out feeling it? So
with a sore back.
I went on the only time I've ever flown, I had a broken pelvis. So
how'd that go?
It was fine.
We went to a concert in Buffalo too. That was great.
Jesus, animal.
We got lots of space because he had crutches.
But yeah, aggressive treatment too.
That's
aggressive treatment. You have to think something's, and like the point is like he was out, then he played. He's out and then he played. This isn't like Nick Kyprios brought this up. It's not like a separated shoulder. He didn't break.
No.
And a finger is nothing. There's nothing substantial holding him out. There's just something that keeps flaring up. Now, apparently, he's had double hip surgery, right? And something to go on with his wrist or something like that.
I didn't know about the hip surgery.
Yeah, neither did I.
Wow.
But that was brought up
Why
on
did we
the
sign
show.
this guy?
No, it's not. Obviously, there weren't major surgeries, but he's had things done to both sides.
Right.
So it's crazy that he's dealing with that and maybe not going to be able to be traded, but put on LTIR.
Yeah, for sure. And I heard today someone speculate that potentially the Leafs knew about these injuries when they signed him and knew that maybe the LTIR would be a route that if it wasn't going well, it was because of injury and that's where he'd go. Which, I mean, that's a possibility. The only thought I had was that the deal got done within like hours of trade deadline. Like, how do you work all that out? Like, that's hard for me to believe, really. But that's also
What
a
do you mean
potential. Like,
hours of trade deadline? Like a free agency
like he
day?
got signed so early into trade deadline day,
Free
right?
agency day.
Sorry. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, we're on the same page. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
so yeah, he got signed really early. He got signed on the 1st. I said that today. I was like, no, he didn't. He got signed like on the 9th. And then I was like, no, he got signed on the 1st. And I was like, well, when did Bertuzzi get signed? Oh, on the 2nd.
Yeah.
Okay. Felt much later than that. But
Right. Yeah. Actually,
But yeah.
it did feel later, the Bertuzzi one.
it did
but-
feel later than that.
Yeah.
But the article came out on the 2nd, so obviously
Yeah.
it was then. But yeah, he was signed right away, and I can't believe that that they would take him with that. But again, LTIR. There's a
Yeah.
max amount of people you can put on there. But what they also
Island.
mentioned is he has to agree to do that if he
Yeah.
can still play some of these games, right? Like if he's still able to play, then why would he want to ruin his career? But he's like 31 or 32. It's not like they made a good point. Matt Murray went on LTIR,
Yeah.
right? And when Matt Murray went on LTIR, he's 29. Like Matt Murray still has a chance. He can go get healthy this year and maybe next, and then still be 31. And then what, he can play until he's 36, 37, like almost guaranteed. And then after that, he might play till he's 40. Like who knows if he's in good enough shape? But like, if he gets
Yeah, but-
himself right. But that's the thing. That's a guy that agreed to it. A guy a little later in his career may not. So they may not ever get that opportunity.
If it's a like an injury though that's keeping him out, like he would probably realize that, like, what's the difference between like playing 10 games in a season and doing his team a favor and playing none. And not if like, and like if you're only going to play 10 games, then like why are you doing that to your body if it's injury? Really, if it was just about skill and like we're like making up an injury here, then that'd be a different story. But I think it's a real thing that he's dealing with. So I don't know. It's an interesting. It's so hard to judge this at the moment. At least myself. Like it could be so many different things.
Yeah, I guess so, eh? I gotta say this too. Don't get your hopes up, but there was a tweet from John Shannon earlier this week that read, Patrick Kane, who has been in training in Oakville, Ontario, is beginning the process of meeting with teams. Hearing he met with the Toronto Maple Leafs today. He added Florida, Tampa, Carolina, Dallas all appear to be on the list of interested teams, and oh yeah, Buffalo too. But he corrected himself today. He said, after hearing earlier in the week that Patrick Kane was to meet with the Maple Leafs on Tuesday, I can confirm that meeting did not occur. Leaf sources reached out today to say it did not happen. Still, though, how great does this lineup look? I don't know how I feel about Kane, but you can't deny the talent he has, as he says. But listen to this: Nyes, Matthews, Marner, Bertuzzi, Tavares, Nylander, Robertson, Domi, Kane, Gregor, Kampf, Yarncroke. On paper, it's absolutely disgusting. Would you guys want Kane? Would you want to add him to this lineup? And what is the maximum contract you think the Leafs would be willing to give Patrick Kane? Webby?
That lineup's disgusting. I think yes. Yeah, but like, how do you fit Patrick Kane? What would I be willing to give him? What do you think the Leafs would be willing to give him? What could they afford to give him? Are two totally different stories, right? Like what he's worth, like I don't know. Maybe he might still be like, I'd still give him probably $2.5 million, $2.5 million, prorated obviously in a 1-year deal. But the $2 million cap hit. But who do you move out at $2 million to make that work? Because the Leafs have like what, $4,000 cap right now or something. Like they're cap strapped. I'd have to go on Cappedia, but they're not so hot. Man's not hot. So I would, yes, A, take Pat Kane, put him on this lineup. B, I think the 2-ish is probably what he'll get somewhere. I think it's going to be more of a Bergeron-esque type contract where like he gets like maybe like a $1.5 million deal, and then performance bonuses take him up to like maybe 3.5, or he gets a $2 million deal and performance bonuses take him up to 3.5 or 4, something like that. I think that would probably be what Patrick Kane ends up with. But could the Leafs do that? I don't think so. And are the Leafs willing to do that with performance bonuses? I highly doubt it.
Yeah, like if it's performance bonus, like there's one requirement, and it's that they win a Stanley Cup, because otherwise I don't want to be taking on that cap hit for the next year. But if we win the cup with them, then totally fine. Like I'll take whatever. Like give them 12 million if that's the case.
But the cap's supposed to go way up next year, right? Like
yeah, I know, but I still don't think it's really like it's not what they need. Yes, it'd be really cool. Like I think that it'd be one of those things. And even like just a couple hours ago, Frank Saravalli is still reporting that Toronto met with him on Monday, right before they left for Sweden. So we're still having conflicting reports to that minute of whether or not this happened or not. Frank's just stirring stuff up, right? So good for him. But yeah, like it's like a super luxury ad, and I don't think you do it unless he wants just the minimum amount. If you want to take the vet minimum, then welcome to the Toronto Maple Leafs. But like, I don't even think I want to like move out Calle Yarncroke to make this work. And we want to move Klingberg or put him on LTIR to make room for a better defenseman. So I just don't think that if he wants to join for almost free, then welcome. But other than that, like I don't think it's what they need right now.
Fair. Yeah, would be exciting though, right? It would be cool. How could you not say it'd be cool to have Patty Kane?
For sure. I think it'd be awesome.
Leafs legend Patrick Kane. So,
That's like, no, I still couldn't do that. That's just too much.
Kane and Matthews and Marner on the same line, like that'd be crazy.
Just the power play. Yeah. Like, you'd have to put him on the top power play. That's the only way he'd come here, right? Yeah. To just somehow just set up Austin Matthews.
Yeah.
Take
because he can put it in the net himself. He'd take feeds from Marner, feeds from Matthews, feeds from Willie.
Austin Matthews' favorite player too, growing up. So, I mean, like he might be texting Kane right now, just like, "I'll give you $1 million."
I'll also give you $1 million.
Yeah, I know this betting website. They're gonna give you a sick deal on an advertisement deal.
No doubt.
Yeah.
This hypothetical we have from Joseph Zita. Do you want to read this one out, Webby, or do you want me to set you up on this? Because I mean, this is a good hypothetical.
I can read it. He goes on to say, this is just kind of like we were talking about the other day about could Toronto get Tanev and Zadorov,
right? And
could it all work after? So I'm going to set this up before I even read this, saying that somebody else tweeted today that if you take half and half of Tanev and Zadorov's contracts and you take John Klingberg, that matches, right?
Ooh.
It's about the same money in, money out. Okay? So then all you have to do is pay them to pay a crappy player for the rest of the year and pay for the guys. So you're looking like, I think I went 2 seconds, a third, and a fourth would kind of be the picks that you'd have to give away. You could trade a second for a second level, like a second round prospect who was a second round pick, switch that kind of stuff in, maybe a fourth round prospect that was picked a few years ago or whatever, but it'd be 2 seconds, a third, and a fourth, or a second, a first, a third, and 2 fourths. So this was the conversation, and I thought that was great. And I thought that's all fine and dandy, but like, what do you do after? Right? So here's the hypothetical. And then Joseph Zita says, let's say Toronto acquires Tanev and Zadorov for 50% retained. Klingberg will almost certainly have to be involved to make money work. You also throw in picks, prospects. Then you just send down Benoit and Legason, and you have approximately $1.643 million in cap space. When they need to activate Timmins off of LTIR, they can send McMahon down and have just over $1.3 million in cap space. Then Liljegren's going to come back. And when Liljegren needs to come off LTIR, they'll need to waive Reeves, easiest choice, call McMahon back up, and have just under $300K in cap space. So this guy has worked it right down to what if, and it could work. They could make it work. Yeah. I think after a few days now, getting both is highly unlikely. I think it's highly unlikely. And I think it's highly unlikely TJ Brody goes out the door
Oh, I
for
don't
any
like
of
that.
these trades.
Yeah.
I don't think that's never going to happen.
Anyone
I
that
think
said that, I was mad at.
I think that obviously Zadorov seems easier to get. Tree likes him, so he seems like the one that that is obvious. But in the back of my mind, Tree also got Tanev,
Yeah.
right? He likes Tanev. Tanev is right-handed. Zadorov's left-handed. So
We like right-handed.
move TJ Brody down, and your defense pairings start looking a lot better, right? So, I
Yeah.
mean, if you get Zadorov, that's going to make Gio a 7th, because then you're going to have, like, Zadorov and Liljegren kind of thing as your 5-6. But I don't know, man. Like, I think that it's kind of more likely, to get to my point, that he swings for the fences and goes for Chris Tanev. And that's going to be the one that happens.
Okay. My question is, why aren't we going for Noah Hannafin?
Oh.
Because he's American and wants to go play in America.
He actually came out after that. That was a story that came out and
That
said,
was pure speculation.
yeah, like, like,
I made that whole thing up.
but yeah, like, I think if we're going to add a defenseman, then you do a real swing for the fences and
But he's
potentially
also left-handed.
I know. I was just going to say that. And potentially, maybe it's not Noah Hannafin. And you go for just, like, this maybe isn't... Like, I can't believe that Treliving is only talking to Calgary. I know it's the one that's in our face because of just
No, he's
the
definitely
whole
probably
Twitter.
not. But they're available, clearly. Zadorov's asked out, too. So that's
Yeah.
why it's such a talking point.
But I don't think just Zadorov is, like it's going to make Treliving overpay to get him here. Like,
No, and you know
he's
what I
in
think's
need of
crazy
a
is,
win.
like, I'm not even sure there was going to be any talk about Chris Tanev until the trade deadline, and then Dan Milstein
right.
comes out with the tweet about Zadorov wanting to leave, and all of a sudden everybody's like, well, let's throw in Tanev too, and all of a sudden now we're sitting here in a freaking podcast making up hypotheticals about how to get Chris Tanev when they're probably like, we're not even going to trade him yet. Like, he's going at the deadline. There's going to be a bidding war. You guys chill. It's not happening right now. So
Yeah.
maybe
and
like
we don't want
Zadorov,
Klingberg, they're saying.
yeah, and that's probably it too, right? Like, no, but again, do they? Because Klingberg is kind of somebody that they could shelter. Their defense core is deep, and they could put him in. But they've also got like Shillington, who kind of does the same thing. He's not as maybe good, but like.
But if
he's
they're
good.
going in this
He's
direction,
offensive.
like, they don't care if like Klingberg is going to play on their team. You know, like, I feel like that's the only thing that maybe has this going for you, because, like, you know, if he plays or not, I don't think Calgary's mad, like, really cares, because, like, it's kind of down the toilet at this point. So, like, put him in the lineup. Don't put him in the lineup.
I don't know if they feel like that in Calgary behind closed doors. I don't know if they do. I think they're going to want to turn this around. But they're kicking
signed
people
at the door now.
contracts. They just signed. Yeah, they're going to get rid of their free agents like every team does. But they just signed like big deals for like Mackenzie Weegar, for Jonathan Huberdeau, for Nazem Kadri. They have these big deals done for these guys, and they're going to want to try and be competitive-ish while they have these guys. What, are they just going to make them go through a rebuild? Do you think that's going to happen? Like, I'm
No,
not
but
sure
at
that's exactly
minimum-
what's going to happen. I think they're still going to try and retool.
At minimum, though, we're like, this season's gone, right? And Klingberg's only a 1-year deal. So, like, I think that, like, it could, like, they could go for it next year still and have
Yeah,
Klingberg
but I mean,
for this year.
they let Johnny Gaudreau and Matt Kachuk. Oh, I guess Matt Kachuk didn't walk, but they let Johnny Gaudreau just walk away. So I mean, like, maybe they're just gonna try until you can't try no more, and then it's too damn late and you can't trade him for nothing because tomorrow I can get him for free. You know, I don't know. Like, Hannafin might not be on the table. They might just want to be good still-ish. We're gonna move our pending free agents, except for the one that we kind of want to keep. Now there's all these people on there, right? And they stopped talks with everybody, with Lindholm, with Hannafin, and I think that was more of a tactic to say, like, we want to make sure that we can put the best team on the ice. So we're not just going to go and give guys deals just because. Now, there's a Calgary tax, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I don't think that they're just tanking is what I'm trying to make a point, is what I feel like you're alluding to. And I don't feel like they're just like throwing the towel in and tanking on this.
Oh, they definitely should. You're probably right. I mean, it's always kind of been the Calgary mentality. And so like, yeah, I'm almost positive now that you are right, but from the outside looking in, I think it's pretty obvious to the rest of the people. But it's just, yeah, it's pretty stubborn over there in Calgary. So
From what I see on the outside.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're talking a lot about Calgary. Why don't we move on to north of the blue line?
All right, so the Canucks played the Islanders Wednesday, and the Oilers played the Kraken Wednesday, and both won 4-3. Both came back down 3-1. The Oilers won in overtime. Evander Kane with the OT hat trick winner. They have now won 3 in a row.
That upset me so much in fantasy.
Yeah,
They won the
that was a
first
rough
one with
one.
Jay Woodcroft still as head coach, noting
Sorry, what was that?
that they've won 3 in a row, but they won the first one with Jay Woodcroft as head coach.
Yes, yeah. So
So
and
they're doing the
Yeah.
same thing they were doing in the first game. The last 2 games, it's like they weren't that bad, right?
I think that's the weird thing about firing your coach after a win, right? It's not a fresh winning streak if you go. Like, that's a
Yeah.
weird one.
Very
It
weird.
is.
Yeah. So, but the Oilers did, like, even though new coach boost, like, they both started shaky in both games, but ended up pulling it off the win in both. Skinner's been a bit better, but is this a new coach boost? Or what is Edmonton supposed to be? And, like, is this what we're going to see more of? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it was not. I mean, new coach boost definitely exists. I won't
Yeah.
knock that. They may even get that, but I think they were already bound to regress back to the median, which is not
Right.
lose every game. They have really good players on that team. They have the best player on that team, right? They have
Yeah.
some atrocious defending and goaltending, but like they're not. It's not always going to be you lose every game, right? Like the team isn't built that bad. They're basically the same team they were last year, and that team went to the playoffs. So I don't know. I think we were bound to see this, whether or not Jay Woodcroft got fired. I don't know if anybody can come up with a good reason after the last 2 wins why the Oilers are the way that they are, why they were the way they were. I think that everybody can just agree that Jay Woodcroft probably wasn't the reason, but here we are.
Yeah, it's they were in a rut. I mean, teams go through that, and for it to happen so early in the season, you're like, wow, this team just can't win. They're so low in the standings. They're this, they're that. Let's compare that after, the Christmas break and after the All-Star break, and we'll see that it always changes over time. I think the Edmonton Oilers are not going to be this team we've seen them at the start of the season, not because of the coaching change. Yes, there's this boost thing happening, a couple wins, but I think if they keep rolling with wins, that's just going to be the norm. It's not going to be like, 10 wins. If let's say they set like a record, they go like 17 wins straight, and we're not going to be like, what a great coaching boost. Like, we're just going to be like, damn, this team's like a powerhouse,
It's a great
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
They
But-
win
but-
17 in a row. You're not going to be like, that's definitely the new coach, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be like, come on, right? Like, I guess
the
maybe
Oilers.
3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
And if in 3 or 4 games, like maybe even like I guess the Leafs, when they got Sheldon Keefe, they had like a decent month or 2 coaching boost before they started playing crappy again, right?
Yeah.
So even in a month or 2, if say in a month or 2 the Oilers are shit again, then I'm going to say this was a coaching boost. But right now, I
Right.
think no, I'm pretty sure the Oilers just aren't that bad. If they're like losing every single game again in January, then I'll believe it. But not right now.
That's right. Yeah, if they go back to anything close to this, we'll know it was just a bit of a boost. A coaching farewell boost for Jay Woodcroft's last game, even though they didn't know, and then a 2-win boost on the new coach. But no, we'll see. I think they're the Edmonton Oilers we knew from last season, and they just went through a rough start.
Yeah, like both games I watched half of. And I went to sleep doubting the Oilers, thinking like, oh, they fucked this one up again. And then I go to bed, and then I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh my God. Like, I'm legit. That's been both times. Like last night too. So it's like one day I'll start believing, but I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like I do agree. Like it probably wouldn't have changed. Like they have started now their 3-game win streak under Woodcroft. So like I don't know. I think that upper management is probably thinking that they think they look smart, right? But I don't think that like it's
upper management in ownership and upper management. I don't know even what it is. Like if they're like a board of directors or like, but I like that Gates guy. But like they're not the brightest bunch. They're not. I don't know where it all went wrong. But it sounded like on paper bringing back all the old 80s Oilers was great into the office. That didn't work. And then they hired Ken Holland, and that didn't work. He fired a bunch of those guys. I just don't really have, like, there was Peter Chiarelli. Do you guys remember Peter Chiarelli?
Yeah, he's trying to get a job everywhere now.
There's literally, like, jokes. He's a meme, man. Like, Peter Chiarelli is a meme. That's all he is. You can't, because of his time, because of how bad he fucked it up over there, and I don't even know if that was on him, right? Because you got Ken Holland screwing the pooch the exact same way.
Yeah.
Like, I think it
goes all the way through.
The problem is much higher than that.
Yeah, everyone thought that Ken Holland was a good GM when he arrived, right? Like,
he has the history, yeah.
Yeah, he's got the reputation, but I don't know. It's also and maybe a guy that's past his prime and is like in terms of like what generation he's like picking players from. So he's soon to retire anyway. But I'm not sure anything really has changed. And most people had Edmonton like to win the cup, right? So
they were.
I'm not sure anyone's really surprised. Yeah.
No, but I think, you stretch these amount of losses out throughout the season, and they're not all packed up at once at the start. It doesn't look so bad. But that's just the way it rolled, and they're looking like they are. And they were a meme themselves. I mean, I go on these, on TikTok, on Instagram, and there's Oilers memes about, all the players they were calling the overpaid egg on defense. They had some great nicknames for the team. Like, oh my God, like it was just... The run
I'm not sure
was real.
that's really changed.
Well, that statement might stay true.
Yeah, they're winning, but there's some pretty big mistakes on defense. That's the big thing. Connor McDavid too, like he just wears everything all over his face. It's when you watch the games, like he like physically looks mad at his team. Right, like it's a really bad look in my.
He should just have a meter on the side of just his face, always just like green screened, and it just gets redder and like angry. You know how the team's doing, and he's just like rolling his eyes, and you're like, uh oh.
You can have a scale that goes around his head too, as he gets more pissed off.
It sucks to suck, right? So like
it does,
you're
but
gonna be mad.
You're also the captain, though. Like we've had these captain talks about like mostly the Avalanche, and so. And Nathan McKinnon.
Because John Tavares would never act out of line ever, not ever. Yes, you guys should probably settle down.
But
he is the most mundane person ever. So yeah, definitely. We talked about the Avs captain, but yeah, you're right. A captain shouldn't act like that.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe he is a guy that like if he starts winning, like that's going to change. So hopefully they just start winning, and we don't have to talk about it. But it's part of the reason why he's like under promoted by the NHL. So I don't know. That's a whole different topic.
You think it has to? Yeah. Okay.
And what about your favorite team?
Yeah, so the Canucks, who did the same thing, they were actually down 2-0 after the first before they made their comeback. And I'm at this point, the Canucks are doing so well that when you call them my favorite team,
you're not even offended. You're like,
no.
Bring it.
Like, actually, I might take them back.
Well, anybody who watched Craig's first episode will know what we're talking about. But you have to be a day oneer. of
Yeah, that's
CP
true.
on the show.
Yeah,
which
you
is
were a
only, like,
closet
episode 4 or
fan.
5
You
for
were like,
us.
Maybe we should just
you're like, I used to like Vancouver, kind of.
Yeah.
Had this thing for them.
when we're in episode 100, maybe we should just never mention it again, and people that's the force to go back and find where that came from.
Yeah, that's the true Easter egg.
Yeah. So like, okay, get this. Pedersen, JT Miller, Quinn Hughes, all tied lead leaguers in points. 26 points.
I know, isn't that ridiculous?
That
Like,
is
isn't that-
ridiculous.
one of those guys is a defenseman.
Yeah. When I
Yeah,
first
that-
put that
what?
in there, I wrote this note and I just had the JT Miller and Pedersen because I didn't even think that he'd be Quinn Hughes as well there. And then when I was like going, I was going to screenshot it and I was like, oh my God, Quinn Hughes is there too. And Brock Besser tied with Austin Matthews, which is with 13 goals, which is also leading the league. So
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I feel like one of those guys will sustain that pace. The other may not. But
That's
if he
my
does,
question.
oh my Lord, the Canucks are in for a season.
Are they in for a season or are they like in for some huge regression? Like, I'm a fan, but
That's what I say. If he can continue that pace, if he can't, that it's going to be obvious, right? And then Brock Besser will be what he is, and he might score 35, 40 goals. I just don't think he'll score 50 or 60.
no, I don't. There's no way in my mind that Brock Besser sustains this. I'm more talking about, do the Vancouver Canucks sustain this? Because like, even if you look at all the nerd stats, they should be not doing as hot as they're doing. There's a lot more defensive flaws and high danger chances that aren't going in the net. And part of that is because Thatcher Demko is probably being their like third or fourth best player, maybe their first best player. So like, there is a good goalies are part of the team. But I just feel like it's been a really nice run, but I feel like they're not going to sustain it quite as much. They might end
I
up
don't know.
being
We're
like one of the
15
top
games
3.
into the season. We'll talk about it in 2 weeks, and if they still are like this
Yeah.
in 2 weeks, then they probably are what they are. Like, I think teams are kind of coming into form to what they are. They're the middling teams now. The teams that are bad already, San Jose. Like, we can tell right away. But there's teams that are stepping away from the pack, like Vegas and Boston and Colorado. And then you have a bunch of guys in the middle. So you're kind of being able to see who is what right now, including like everything revolves around the Leafs, including the Leafs, right? So like in my opinion, watching my own team, I'm going to say that it feels like the Leafs are starting to round into form and finding their way. So if the Canucks have been reeling off all these wins and now they're reeling into form and finding their way, I think maybe then they might be on for a roll of a season. But again, we'll have to talk about it in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's a fair
sure.
point. I think it's like similar to and kind of the opposite of the Edmonton thing, where all stacked up at the start of the season. It looks amazing, but we have to see how it goes in the long run, and also the fact that teams like Edmonton and other teams we thought were going to be sneaky good and we thought were just going to be generally good. Have had struggling moments, even like the Avs, who have overall a good record, but have had moments of like, getting shut out and being like worrisome what's going on there. Obviously, like Calgary, bottom of the barrel, like Edmonton, like I said, even New Jersey, I thought was going to be like way better. I thought Ottawa was going to be way better. I thought, even Detroit, they're doing well, but like, they have like moments too where it's just like their goaltending, there's questions there too, and all these teams I thought were going to be like amazing right off the top that weren't amazing are now, like you said, Webby, figuring it out, and as they come back into form, it's got to level other things out, right? These standouts early on are probably going to kind of shift back into the mix a little bit.
But
Just as you go through those teams, Vancouver's played a lot of those teams. So as they're figuring it out at the bottom, Vancouver's, coming out hot and taking advantage of that,
Feasting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that even though, like, just to go back to the Oilers for a second, you said 17-game win streak. You may have to have a 17-game win streak just to make the playoffs this year. They may have dug themselves such a far hole that if they play at their regular winning pace, they still may not have enough wins to sneak into the playoffs at the end of the year. And what if they play slightly just below that from now until then? They probably wouldn't. So I don't know.
Fair.
We'll have to see, because they've lost a lot of games at this point, like San Jose, like Calgary. Like, there's guys digging themselves a deep hole. Vancouver, though, I think they're gonna let it ride. I think, like, you got a bunch of. We've been saying it for years. They've got a bunch of studs. You got Elias Pettersson. You got Quinn Hughes. You got Thatcher Demko. And then you got a whole bunch of secondary stars. I mean, like, JT Miller is really, really good. Like, he's really good. He's got a hell of a shot. He's got an edge to him. And, like, I personally don't like the player, because I'm always like, I don't know why. There just must have been a bad PR campaign on him.
The Adam Wild campaign.
Watching him. But the whole JT Miller, she just wasn't very good, right? And then all of a sudden, he broke out. And then, he does all this stuff too. Like, so he's a very, very good player. And the Canucks have multiple layers of these guys going down. So I don't know. I think they'll be just fine.
What was the Adam Wild campaign you were saying, CP?
Adam Wild hates JT Miller. Adam Wild from the Steve Dangle podcast. Like, he last year, all year long, just decided that he was the worst player in the entire league. And I'll give him it, like, he wasn't great, and neither were the Canucks. And I feel like
maybe he had him in fantasy.
Yeah, he probably did. Because the year before that, the year before, he almost had 100 points. Like, this isn't a guy that was never doing it. Like, he's had his ups and downs. Like, when he was in Tampa, he was kind of a middle of the road guy, and then, like, has his breakouts with almost 100 points. Then has a dip season, and this year he's like, if people are actually watching these games, might be a Selke candidate. Like, I would like to watch them play the Oilers again when, like, McDavid's actually going, because JT Miller just shut him down both games. That was the biggest takeaway. So, and this guy, anyone could have last year for like a first round draft pick, possibly, like a decent prospect. Like, they were willing to give him up before he signed the contract. And
even after he signed the contract, I think.
Yeah. It was kind of like a pre-sign and trade.
There was
like,
a lot
we'll
of
sign
talk
him.
of it after. Yeah, we'll sign him, and even if we sign him, then that's a decent deal for the player. So, like, we'll move him. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe
How many
he
teams
just doesn't fit here? Because, like, there's a difference between a player not being good and a player being good and not fitting on your team. Right.
Yeah. Right.
And, like, if that at the time they had Bo Horvat, right, and they had Elias Pettersson, and maybe they were going in a different direction, and now they've maybe decided they're going to go down the Rick Tocchet JT Miller road, and, like, Rick Tocchet loves JT Miller, right? Mm-hmm. So you got to think that plays a lot into it.
Yeah, ownership thought he was the type of team they wanted, and it just benefited them that Bo Horvat was just having a stellar year, and so when it came to trading, they got a lot more for Bo Horvat. So they picked one basically.
Yep.
But I think there's a lot of teams kicking their butts, though. Looking at JT Miller right now, like, could be your second line center.
No doubt.
Any team his name came across their board and they thought about it and thought things, and now and passed that up, they're definitely kicking themselves. And for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on. I'm going to start talking about the Avs. Let's get into the Avs. All right, so big win from the Avs. They claim back that 8-2 loss against the Blues over the weekend, but they also won Monday 5-1 against the Kraken against the Ducks. They are back, it seems. The Avs bottom six stepped up in a huge way. Miles Wood had an assist, and this is all in the game against the Ducks. Miles Wood had an assist. Ross Colton had a goal. Logan O'Connor had 2 assists. Andrew Cogliano had a goal. Frederick Golofsson had a goal. Joel Kiviranta, who started the year with an AHL deal, had 1 goal and 2 assists. So, Ted, who's been leading the charge during this resurgence in your eyes over the last 2 games?
It's got to be our current big three, Nate, Mikko, and Kale. seeing these guys on the board constantly. I know we had the big input from the bottom six there against the Ducks. That was huge. When you go 8-2 against a team, I mean, hopefully you're getting contributions from all lines at that point. It'd be cool. I mean, if the first line got all 8 goals, that'd be hilarious too. But cool to see contributions from the whole team in games like that. But leading the charge, it's got to be that, Cale, Mikko, and Nate really doing us some justice up there in the front end.
Yeah, I can tell with my fantasy team. Nichushkin's helping out for sure as well.
Yeah. Val's in a good spot right now. Yeah. He's,
the guns are firing again. It just seems to be all coming together.
That's right.
But one player in particular, in that game against the Ducks, Kiviranta was the first star.
Yeah.
He signed a 2-way contract earlier in the week. He added 2 assists in that game and made quite the impact. Kiviranta was in Avalanche training camp on a professional tryout contract and had been playing with the Colorado Eagles on an AHL deal before he was signed on Sunday, as I mentioned earlier. He played 163 games with Dallas and was on the Stars team that went to the Stanley Cup Finals in 2020. He eliminated the Avalanche when he scored the overtime goal in Game 7 of the second round in that postseason. Is this guy going to make his name as an Av now?
Yeah, I think so. I think, we really seem to love him in Denver right away. That was a big game for him. First star, and he came out in front of Ball Arena and did the interview after where his voice is going like around the arena. And he's one of these guys, Finnish guy, and he's got bit of an accent and a little bit of broken English, but his answers were great. And, the energy coming from him, He loves the energy from the crowd. Ball Arena is a great place for games to happen. I love watching Avs home games. I sent the boys a few clips. Yeah. Man, I get so on the level. Like, Amanda was looking at me over on the couch all night like, what are you doing? Like, I'd just be screaming. When Devon Taves scored, I literally was so loud because I was like, that's good for, like, the team and for fantasy for me. So I was super pumped. And, yeah, Kiviranta, this guy is officially an Av. We got a few of these guys from the Dallas previous stars. Obviously, Val was drafted by Dallas, and then we took him and put him to the best of his abilities. We've got Riley Tufte, who was within the Dallas system, and Kiviranta. And there was another, Golofsson as well, was Dallas. That's the thing Kiviranta mentions a lot as
team.
well. Yeah.
The top scores, the bottom scores, it seems to be, when they fire, they all fire. When they don't, they all don't, right?
That's right.
That's literally what it looked like so far this year. But they really have found it in the last two, 8-2 and 5-1. Any worries we had about Georgie are pretty much gone after those last 2 games.
Yeah, even in the 8-2, there were moments. The first goal, the Ducks didn't get any. Well, they only had 2 shots in the first period, and one of them went in. And it was with like 20 seconds left in the period or less. So Georgie was maybe just rusty all period, hadn't really got a shot. So yeah, there's still some moments I wonder about him sometimes. I love long hair, but I think he needs a haircut. I think he needs to clear his head.
Getting in the way.
Yeah.
He looks too cool.
Yeah, he needs to just trim things back.
That.
To go back to the to the Kiviranta thing, I know that everybody's been talking about the points he just got, but the best thing about this guy is that he's a solid penalty killer. That's kind of what he's been known for at all the levels, is that he's a workhorse player and like a penalty killer. And, I think that's a necessary commodity, right? Like
big time.
Just like the Leafs are, to bring it all back to the Leafs.
Certainly, if you can find a good penalty killer on a league minimum contract, oh my God.
Yeah,
that's nice, because that's a position you don't want to pay for, and that's a thing that people always try and justify people's contracts with. Well, he's really good on the penalty kill, or he's got to play. Like, we can't get rid of him because he's really good on the penalty kill. It's like, man, like, can't we find guys who are like cheap that are good on the penalty kill?
Do you have to pay them $2-3 million?
Yeah, just to say $2.5 million? No, well,
but then also to go back to Georgiev, he doesn't necessarily have like a crazy track record, right? So when you've seen the shaky points, like it's nice that he's been playing better, but I think like it's not someone that you can look back on that's been always a starting goalie, right? But
Well, that's right. Yeah, last year was his first year as a real starting goalie. We got him from the Rangers, where he's the clear backup. And yeah, he came here and became our number one guy. Played a lot of games, a lot of wins. But yeah, can he do that season after season after season? We don't know yet.
yeah,
Untested.
Sakic, like when he brought him in, it was a little bit of a shocker. Like he was so confident in him being the starter, and I think that he's proven to be right so far, but everyone still has those like questions, I think.
Well, he's going to have to be. He
Yes.
really has.
Yeah,
The team has
definitely.
no choice because now it's been released that Colorado Avalanche goaltender Pavel Francouz will miss the remainder of 2023-2024 season. Due to a lower body injury, he will return to the Czech Republic with his family for the rest of the year. So he's done. He's gone. He's that hurt.
That's tough.
He's not coming back. They, in my opinion, now you see guys come out of nowhere that you're like, oh wow, that guy is an actual NHL goaltender that's been playing in the AHL or whatever. But it doesn't look like the Avs have much behind Georgiev. He
No.
has to play a lot of games. Like the other games might be split between two guys. Like it's not just going to be one backup. There's going to be two backups, right?
That's right.
You're going to get whatever you get out of the backups, and Georgiev's going to play 65 games. Like
Yeah, I'm shocked
gonna
that
have-
the Avs haven't claimed any of the goalies that have passed through. Like even when Martin Jones made a pass through, like I feel like they could have just given him a shot. Better to have a veteran presence, right? I don't know. I think that still might be a route they go.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, there could be something to that with some goalies being moved around if the Avs get in on that kind of at all, or if they're maybe just kicking themselves that they didn't sign some of these guys. I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes they just stop coming, like they stop showing up on waivers, right? Like you don't always
Yeah.
get them for free.
That's right.
Yeah, another injury, unfortunate. Arturi Lehkonen is dealing with a neck injury, and that sucks for you in many ways because he's also on your fantasy team.
Yes.
And so he was off to a really hot start. I didn't bring up his numbers in front of me, but Jared Bednar confirmed today that he has no timeline for when he'll
Yeah, I
be
know.
back. They have no idea when. He's got a problem with his neck. So
Yeah.
that's bad.
That's really bad. That's scary stuff for, just on a human level. And then, of course, as an Avs fan, not good. We love Lecky, hoping for the best. We've had, Cogliano go through neck stuff and was luckily he's been back and in and out of the lineup here and there. But he got a goal in that game against the Ducks, 21 seconds apart with Kiviranta. So, I mean, hopefully it's along that kind of line where he's out for a bit because he needs to be because it's a neck thing. You don't want to mess with that. But hopefully he comes back and it's that same route where it takes the time, but it was worth it because he comes back and is healthy and scoring again.
You also see guys like Jack Eichel who had really bad neck problems. Like there's new science now. Like he had a brand new surgery and he's playing just like he was before it, right? So I don't. Hopefully, it doesn't get to that point, but I think that this is the best day to get some injuries, just because of some of the science has progressed so much, right?
Yeah. Fair point. Yeah,
but tough spot to have an injury.
yeah.
So Lehkonen must have been injured in the last game against the Ducks.
It was the one
Did
against.
you see it happen?
It was the one against Seattle.
And he didn't play against the Ducks then?
No. Yeah.
So did you see what happened to him?
Yeah.
He went into the boards kind of awkwardly. It wasn't anything it wasn't a dirty play at all. There was no nastiness and everyone kind of knew that. I think Nate and guys on the ice went in and talked to the ref and made sure if there needed to be a call, there would have been one. And upon looking at it, and I think Bednar had said something early on when it first came out when he was just listed as day-to-day, he said something along the lines of he didn't see it on the ice. his immediate reaction was, "Hey, our guy just went down, looks hurt. Give us a call." But then he said, when I watched the replay, I realized it was not a dirty play. Very similar to the Kale thing when he went in.
Wow.
So it wasn't really like
super unfortunate.
this isn't an ongoing thing. This is from like an actual on ice incident where like he actually went into the boards.
Yes, yeah, it was bad. It looked scary. It was a very scary play. Like it
Tough.
looked scary when it happened, and when he was only listed day to day, it was almost kind of odd. It was like, well, maybe it just didn't look as bad as it was, but then it progressed, and now it was week to week. He was injury reserve. Now he's LTIR.
Yeah.
So that leaves a pretty massive hole.
Yeah.
He was playing very well. He's playing in the top 6. So now you have Daily Faceoff as the lines as Nichushkin, McKinnon, Rantanen, Drouin, Johansson, and Tatar as your top 6. Now you do have a couple of dope players in Miles Wood and Ross Colton on the third line. I think those are your more middle 6 guys. They could play in the top 6 depending on their rules, and like they both have offensive upside. Miles Wood could just be your transition guy. He's so fast, and he's good
fast.
defensively. So, he could be carrying the puck out. He could be, skating back and playing defensively well. So I think they could sub up there. But, who's going to fill? You think Drouin's going to stick on the second line? You think Nichushkin's probably the best option and only option to go up on that first line?
Right now, yeah, it's got to be Val on the top line. Unless Drouin starts proving something crazy, but he was okay. Bednar gave him some props after the game because he did play well in the 8-2. He took a weird penalty in the first, but didn't turn into anything. It was just a holding call that really shouldn't happen, didn't need to happen. And it was just it looked kind of like amateur. It looked like beer league kind of stuff. And it was don't do that, man. But then he played really well the rest of the game. Gave his head a shake, got out there. So I don't know. I'd like to give that guy a chance again to link up with McKinnon. I think that needs to at least happen sometimes. But yeah, no, Nichushkin's up there. Filling in, I think we'll see guys like Tufty come in. Even I think he's a defense. Caleb Jones has been making some spots in the lineup. We've seen him. I think he's just either a 13th if he's a forward. I honestly forget right now, but you see him out there every now and then. His dad was at the game. Caleb Jones, Seth Jones' brother. Their dad Popeye was at the game. I thought that was
Popeye.
Cool. His name's Popeye.
That's awesome.
Popeye Jones.
What a great name.
I know. I was like, what a sick handle.
Yeah.
That
oh
rocks.
yeah.
Popeye.
He's got 2 sons in the NHL. I was like, what a guy.
Yeah, badass.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So any minute here, we should have our special guest, Mickey Toohey, on to break down what we think is going to happen going into the Leafs game and to ask a couple questions about the Minnesota Wild. But she's not here yet. And why don't we just roll into what the puck is happening around the league, and we'll rapid fire some questions until she shows up.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Let's go.
It's Greg Wyshynski tweeted that it sounds like changes could be coming for NHL 3-on-3 overtime.
Whoa.
Lots of discussion about reducing puck possession, potentially by trying to make half-court rules on circling back on your own zone. So, like in basketball, you can't go back over the red line once you crossed it, and I think I like it. I like it a lot. I argued with some people online about it, statisticians, how they it's skill that made the play. That's how you can tell, because that's what my model measures. Buddy, I like luck. I like mistakes. I like human error, and I like the fact that these people are human that are playing. If I wanted to watch robots fight, there's a league for that. I can go watch robots fight. I don't want that. Right?
Yeah, we could sim an NHL season too if we wanted.
Yeah,
but no.
exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's not what I'm looking for. I want somebody to mess it up, right? So if they can't go in and they're forced, Mitch Marner does it a lot, and it's really going to make things interesting for the Leafs, because I think the Leafs. I was going to say the other game, a few nights ago, that I think the Leafs have won a bunch of games in overtime this year. I'm not sure have they lost? They lose once.
Yeah,
but they've lost a couple. They've won a couple times, and they always look really, really good. Is my point. And And like they can't live on that because like that is not going to get you through the playoffs, right? But this 3-on-3 overtime could mess with a guy like Mitch Marner who goes and picks the puck up and all of a sudden wants to change and he whoop back to his own zone, back up. Whoop! No, that didn't work. Back to my own zone. Back up.
I like that in 3-on-3 though. I like that they do that, and it's cool because you're
man,
like, oh, you know, he's not worried about offside or whatever.
Right on. So now we'd like to welcome on our special guest for the show, Mickey Toohey. She's a writer for Inside the Rink and HockeyWilderness.com, and she's tapped into all that is Minnesota Wild. So naturally, she has her own podcast you should definitely check out, called Her Wild Side Hockey Podcast. You can find her on X at Hockey She Wrote for any hockey fans that don't follow her. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to Split the Defense. We have
Thank you for having
6
me
questions.
on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, we look forward to talking to you. We have 6 questions, and I wanted to write like 14, but I had to keep it like down. So I just tried to pick the ones that we thought would be appropriate for here. The first thing I want to talk about is the last time the Leafs and the Wild met. It was an entertaining one. 11 goals were scored in the game. Both teams are having goaltending issues to start the season. We know all about the Leafs situation. We talk about that a lot, but we want to know about the Wild. And the Fleury has an .879 save percentage and a .341 goals against. Gustafsson has an .872 and a .464 goals against. But Jesper Wallstedt was named AHL's first star of the week after going 2-0-0 with a .950 save percentage in 2 games for the Iowa Wild. Now the Wild in Minnesota have recalled him for their trip to Sweden. So do you think he's going to play in Sweden? And do you think the hype around this kid is deserved and he's ready for a shot in the NHL?
Is he ready? Yes. But should we put him in? No. I think it would be really cool for him to play in Sweden, but I don't think that's the reason that we should go to. He's doing great in the AHL, and we need to overbake him. You cannot, because you cannot keep a goalie down there too long. The longer they're down there, the more experience they get. I mean, this kid is only 20 years old. So I think that he's just along for the ride. He can see some family and friends, and he can, warm the bench.
Right. 20 years old. Wow, that's that's really young, actually. But, yeah. So okay, so the young guy, but also the older guys who have maybe left. Ryan Suter and Zach Parise buyouts are scheduled to really kick in hot.
Yes.
So they paid $4.7 million in dead cap in 21, $12.7 million 22-23, and now $14.7 million in dead cap scheduled to be there. So
and that'll
do you
be
think
next year too.
Yeah. So do you think the buyouts were the best path to be a successful team, or do you think this is kind of like bad management here?
I think absolutely we needed to do it.
Yeah.
I am behind Billy G all the way. He has a plan. Sometimes he knows the plan, nobody else does. But he makes these moves, and he's very smart about them, even if we can't see that at the beginning. And Suter and Parise, Suter in particular, was someone who didn't make a friendly locker room. Whereas now our team is known for having a very tight locker room. They're all very good friends. I mean, they actually hang out during the off season. They go on vacation together. They do all of these things. And I feel like sometimes that is translating onto the ice, even if it's not right this minute.
That definitely goes a long way. All part of the culture and, the team winning. And speaking about, moves that may not have been great or don't look good early on at least. One for the Leafs that hasn't worked out is Ryan Reeves, currently on the outside looking in. We want to know your thoughts on Ryan Reeves because I think, these guys, they're wondering, did you like him in Minnesota? Would you maybe ever consider taking him back?
I mean, here's the thing is we wanted him back. And if he could have signed, a league minimum contract, he might have come back. But the Leafs offered him this, what was it, $1.3 million a year for 3 years?
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, how can he turn that down? He said, I've only got a few more years left in the league. I'm going to grab as much as I can, and I don't blame him for that. And as my thoughts for him, Let's see. Last year at the beginning of the year, so before he was with us, when he was with the Rangers, I did not like him. I don't know if you guys have probably seen that picture where he's like punching Foligno in the face. It was
Yeah.
on
I mean, I
like
saw him do that at the beginning of
Yeah.
the season this season. So like,
it was when it was like front page picture. I mean, it was,
okay.
so I was like, oh my god, I hate that guy. And then he came to our team, and he is a good guy. Like he's fun. He's fun in the locker room. Again, he's a character, you know, and he's someone who can really pull a team together. But he doesn't have the on ice, stuff to go along with it. Is what's hard. Now, if we could hire him to be like some kind of an assistant coach or someone, to be in the front office, that would be great because he has such a great personality. And I gotta say now, though, I don't like him right now because at the first game, he hit Freddie Gaudreau, and Gaudreau has been out now. He struggled through a few games, and then now he's been out for 9 games. He's on LTIR and scheduled to come off soon, but I kind of was like, no, Reeves, you're back down on the list.
Right. I think like Reeves, if like you said, for the minimum contract, if he could just if he's scratched most nights, like he's a great locker room guy, but Webby and I are experiencing firsthand that on ice it's rough.
A whole different story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Not a fan so far.
Minnesota though, my thing just changed, but Minnesota, they signed Matt Boldy to a 7-year, $49 million contract. It's an annual value of $7 million. So do you think this guy's going to be a superstar? What are your expectations for him?
I think he will be. And again, he's another guy that is so young. I think he's 21, maybe 22. He has so many years ahead of him. We have not, he's like, if this is his floor, he has so much potential. He has shown us last year he would go on just an absolute tear. His problem is obviously consistency. He also is kind of, has this tendency to want to make the pretty play, where he just has to get in there and just score any kind of a goal you can. So I think he'll get back to that. He's just kind of struggling right now.
I think we're all familiar with him just from fantasy hockey. He's been on my team multiple times, and even I picked him up right when he came to Minnesota, and Marco Rossi and him both came together, right?
Yeah.
And then Rossi didn't quite pan out right away, but Boldy, he's stuck around, and like you said, been hot and cold. But I think bigger of us a name than I thought I expected, at least.
Yeah, I agree. But he's, again, if he could really just get back to where he was last year, I think everyone will see that potential again.
That's it, right? Coming in from injury at the start of the season. I have him too this year in fantasy, and hoping for a big year for Matt Boldy, obviously. And, the Wild in general haven't started the season the way they wanted to, being at 5-8-2 and 6th in the Central after 15 games. What aspects of the Wild's gameplay do you think will be crucial for them to improve on for the team to get back on track?
Special teams is really the biggest one. It just seems like nothing seems to click. Neither power play unit is clicking. Neither of the penalty kill units are, killing a penalty. It's getting to the point where if we take a penalty, they're just going to score. But you know what? That also happened at the beginning of last year. Last season at the beginning, they could not get their special teams for anything, And again, anytime we took a penalty, we just knew that the other team was going to score. So I know that we can get there because last year they did. They kind of, after a while, they figured stuff out. And I think they can. I just think they've had a rough start to the season with Matt Boldy. He was out injured. Spurgeon just jumped into his season. He's only played 2 games so far. So I think just missing all of these crucial pieces has meant it's been really hard to actually practice with the units they want on the ice and not just kind of fill in guys.
That's a fair point. Yeah, and that's obviously, I'm thinking, going to help the goaltending too, having guys like Spurgeon back in the lineup, of course.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, obviously, good defense helps a goaltender, 100%. So the Leafs and Minnesota are playing each other in Sweden this weekend at It's 7 a.m. Central Time, at 8 a.m. Eastern Time for us.
Nice.
And that is wild for me. I guess I'm going to be up early with a coffee watching hockey, which isn't normal.
Yep.
But I wonder, the last time we saw them play, we saw physicality. We saw Ryan Reeves, namely, hitting Goudreau. We saw him fighting Foligno. We saw, everybody kind of getting their hits in. And Minnesota's known to be physical. We also saw goals. We saw that the team can score. They scored 4 goals. Like, it's still, that should be enough to win on most nights, right? So I'm just kind of wondering this weekend when they play each other, what are going to be the keys for the weekend to Minnesota? Like, what do the Wild need to do to be successful, and how important is it for them to find success during this trip?
I think this trip could be crucial. It could be a moment in the season where this is a reset, and they can hit that reset button when they're back in America. All of a sudden, hopefully they can snap to it. I think part of what this trip is going to be good for is we have so many Swedish guys on the team. And I think being able to have them go home and play in front of so many family and friends and, even some of the other European guys, I think they're going to play their best. I really think they'll be at their best.
I said the same thing earlier.
Yeah. And as for scoring, we have actually had really good depth scoring. The guys that are scoring the most are on the 4th line. We've got Pat Maroon, who, has had the most points at one point. And what we really need is like Kaprizov and Boldy to just get in there and do what they need to do. And, I'm hoping that, again, maybe a different setting, somewhere where nobody's actually the home team. That might be something that can kind of just kind of change their mindset.
All right. Well, I'm hoping for a Leafs win personally, but
Same here.
I can see on your side that they definitely need to find the success, and I do hope for success for them as well, as long as they're right behind the Avs. And we'll definitely have to have you back because we also like to talk about the Colorado Avalanche. So when we meet up again with the Colorado Avalanche and the Minnesota Wild, we'll ask you back if you're available.
Yeah, for sure.
This was absolutely awesome. We appreciate you coming on. Everybody listening, this was Mickey Toohey. She's a Minnesota Wild writer for Inside the Rink and Hockey Wilderness, and her ex is Hockey She Wrote. So thanks again, Mickey, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks
for
very
being
much.
here.
Thank you.
Take care. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Awesome.
Oh, that was awesome, guys.
Yeah, great interview.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Thanks to Mickey for being here. We had a lot of fun with that. That was cool.
Yeah, burning questions we had. All right, well, I got just two more little things I wanted to hit, and then we can get the heck out of here, boys. So one thing I wanted to say is Bill Daly says the NHL is looking to have an international tournament in February 2025, and then wants to return to the 2026 Olympics and get and stage a World Cup that follows 2 years afterwards. But bang, yes. So we're gonna see Connor McDavid play with Mitch Marner. Like, we're gonna see some stupid stuff. But Team USA is gonna be stupid. It's not even gonna be like this. Is gonna be a tournament, man. These international best on best with NHL players. Oh boy, it's
That'd
been a
be
while.
cool. Yeah.
It's gonna
my
be
God.
so fun to see these superstars together.
Is this going to be like an all-star weekend type thing? Like, what are they, or like, what is this
a
tournament?
Some
Like,
sort
what
of
is-
like
Yeah. Like just an international tournament made up of
in
only
February.
NHL players,
So like they're
country
gonna
by
have a
country.
break. Like
Yeah, just like the Olympics, basically.
Yeah,
like
just like
yeah.
the
Just put on by the chow. Yeah.
yes, like a World
Sweet.
Cup kind of thing, but mid-season. Oh man, it's gonna be international.
That's so
Oh,
cool.
this
Yeah,
is
that takes me
similar-
back. Yeah, that's cool.
This is similar too with the NBA doing the
I was gonna bring
in-season
this up.
tournament, right? But just making it about international, what absolutely everybody has been praying for. All the players, it's the only thing they care about in bargaining. Like it's been such a mistake by the NHL that we've had to wait this long. I'm just so excited. I couldn't be more excited.
So does that explain, why they've been pulling them away from other tournaments over the years and IIHF stuff and Olympic stuff? Maybe this has been in the back burner for a while, and they say they're going to do their NHL thing, or is this just new?
They're just bad at running the NHL, and they've been too worried about their own product and not worrying about NHL as an international game and growing the game. I think it's been one of the biggest like falling points of the NHL as a management company, and not growing the game internationally, not being at the Olympics, doing things like this, like massive step, I think, for the game.
Yeah, I think so
I'm
too.
super excited to see it, and I honestly would like to see something like the NBA play-in tournament thing that they have. That would be so cool if they did a mid-season tournament like that for the
sure.
NHL. So like certain games in the NBA, like Thursday nights and like just like Tuesdays and Thursdays and every other Good Friday, like it's crazy. But these games count towards your play-in tournament seed. And
Wow.
so like you can make the tournament, then they'll have this play-in tournament mid-season, and
Yeah.
like that would be so much fun in the NHL. That would
And
be
it actually-
so much fun.
The idea had like just like anything, like some people love the idea, some people hated on it. And I've even heard some of the haters that were like, you know what, those for the tournament games, I was watching games that I normally wouldn't be watching, because it just drives interest. Like you hit like this game over here is a tournament game. Like I need to know who wins this. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a smart marketing brand idea, and you're not playing any extra games. You're just making certain games count for something different, right?
That's
it's similar to
what I was
how
gonna say,
soccer.
if it's not a huge add on to the load of games, which we know it's a lot of games.
Yeah,
you know,
82 games. It's a
that's
lot of
a lot
games.
of games.
It's a lot of games.
So yeah,
a lot of
if it
games.
doesn't add a lot onto it, then it's not going to injure players or put people out for other stuff, then why not do it? Just go do it.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? It's similar to soccer or football in Europe. As they're playing throughout the season, some games count for some leagues, some things count for different cups. So fans show up for certain, like in the middle of the season games.
Yeah, I know. 'Cause it's
It
huge.
is
It's a big
confusing,
game.
but
Yeah, it's so
they all
confusing. But
understand
it's probably
it, though.
a lot of fun. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
When you get right
yeah.
into it, it's probably a lot of fun. Makes
Everything
things
I
more
learned about
interesting.
European
Then, hey,
football is awesome.
you know what they did? They
Yeah.
also don't have playoffs, right? In the Premier League. Like, if you win, you win. That's it. It's like
Now
you win the
you're
Premier
asking
League,
me
you win the-
questions I don't know the answers to.
We're getting
Okay,
too.
so no, that
getting
is the
too
way it
deep here.
works. So they have a regular season. Whoever wins
Okay.
the regular season is the Premier League champion. That's how
Right.
it works.
I
They
also
don't
do
have-
know
But
there's a
you're right, they
tournament.
do have those other tournaments
Yeah.
inside of it. Now, I don't know how that works.
It's just
where
like
I'm
some
beyond
weekend
my
they're like,
knowledge.
"Oh, we're playing for the FA Cup," and they're like, "Oh, so you made the playoffs?" Like, no, it's totally separate. And you're like, oh, okay.
From watching the Wrexham series, I do know that like if you're not the winner, then there's a bunch of teams that play to move up a division or not.
Right. Yeah,
so
and that's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
necessarily the same as
no,
like the actual final. Like, yeah,
it's a
really.
promotion
It's-
system. It's so different.
I think that would be like if there's 3 teams that get demoted, there'd be 3 teams that could get promoted. So then you'd have
Yeah.
like a 6-team tournament kind of thing that happens.
right. Yeah. Premier League's at the top, and then there's all the
And then
divisions.
you're trying
under.
you're trying to get to at least 3rd place in your league, because if you can get to 3rd place, then you can get into that tournament. And even if you just win out that tournament, even though you were 3rd place in your league, you can get into the
Yeah.
Premier
Yeah.
League. So, yeah, I guess that'd be really cool. I mean, I'd really like to see like some sort of relegation system, because apparently, like Alan Walsh was a big clip of him going, noted agent and member of SDP, and he said that there are more teams coming. There's more cities that are going to buy. You just wait. It'll be $1 billion a franchise. He started going on about what that means to the players, whatever. But there's more teams coming.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
really what I take out of it. So you're going to have a bigger league, and I think eventually, like, you can't all be here. You can't all be in the best league. Like, you know
It's
what I mean?
interesting
Like,
thought.
It used to be like, so like now we have 700 players. First, when like the league was young, it was like it's the top 200 or 300 players in the world, and then
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
top 500 players in the world. Now it's the top 700 players in the world. And then you're going to get to like the
Arguably,
top 1,000
Yeah,
players in the
Yeah,
world. And,
and
then you're
it's
going to get to a point
arguably.
where it's going to be arguably, before, and there was probably a point where it wasn't, right? But
At
if
all,
you get to
yeah.
that many teams, then
It's
it's
gonna
going to
get-
be
yeah.
arguably like maybe there's probably guys that are just replacement level that are playing in the KHL that are just as
Exactly.
good.
Well,
Yeah.
Absolutely just as good.
I think we could all agree that that's the case at the moment. Like, there's
Well,
no
and
way that the
AHL
best.
even like some guys come up and like they're ripping it in the AHL, and they come up and find a spot on a team, and you're like, why wasn't he on a team? Just wasn't the right team at the right time. But
Well, there's a lot of guys in the KHL, like the Swedish leagues. There's a lot of great players that aren't in the NHL, and I think if you did a top 700, they're not all NHL players.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
I think so right now. Yeah.
Yeah, the NBA has
I'm
an
just saying, he
opposite
starts
problem.
getting watered
Like
down.
Reeves is on an NHL team. You think he's top 700?
No way.
No,
Yeah.
right? Well, I mean, NHL hockey, though. Are you talking NHL hockey? Because they play on bigger ice, and these are more skilled. Like, so we're talking NHL hockey. Top 700 NHL hockey players, not hockey players who play on big ice and have time and space and play a different game. I'm talking the smaller ice, the NHL style. And when you get to 1,000 players, when we get to like 40 teams, how fucking watered down is it going to be?
Yeah.
Oh, it's
I
going to
know.
be crazy. It'll be like 2035, and like McDavid won't have won a cup yet, but he'll like go for his last year on the Houston like Aeronauts, and they'll like win a.
And you'll never know what team's good. They'll never be good teams
The league's
because
gonna be messed
there's
up.
only good. There's going to be so many teams that offer money and there's only going to be so many players, good players still that are top players, right? Like we only have so many top players in the league. They're not just
spread
going to
'em out.
manifest more. Yeah, you're gonna be having guys on like the 40th team as a 1C who like aren't 1Cs.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
And like and then why? And then you're all of a sudden you're gonna have so many superstars spread out, so there's gonna be more depth in these teams, and it's gonna be, and then the parity's really gonna be there. And like I don't know, does that make it more exciting? I think it's fun when you were able to build a team and win. If you wanted
Right.
to, you could build a team and win. If you wanted to be a scrub, then your fans could rag on you because you're a scrub. Spend the money, build a team, and win. And now they're like, nah,
Yeah.
Or you can be the Leafs and spend the money to build a team, and it still sucks for years and years. The cap didn't affect them at all.
Yeah, no,
Just
if
save
they
the
had
money.
10 more yeah, no, God, no. I mean, like, way back then, yes, but now, can you
Yeah.
imagine, with the muscle that they flex all the time, their financial muscle, they would totally, 100% be
The
buying
Yankees suck
players.
this year.
If the Leafs didn't have a salary cap, their payroll would be like $150 million for players.
For sure.
$150 million.
They'd go all out. Yeah, it'd be.
Oh yeah, they'd have all the best players in the league. They wouldn't. There'd be no problems. Like they'd be buying. They probably wouldn't have a draft pick for 5 years. Like
Yeah.
but
But if you
they'd
look
have
in
all the best players in
in
the league.
baseball, like
Or just sign
there's
them
no
in free
salary
agency.
cap.
Because they can sign
And
them at $15 million.
yeah, but, like in baseball, there's no salary cap. There's like the luxury tax, right? But the Yankees don't win the World Series every year. Like you still have to be good at building a team, right? And like this year was a big example of that, where the biggest payrolls in the league were awful for the
If
most
there's no
part.
cap, they might have offered
Well,
Klingberg
didn't
more money.
Texas buy their
Yeah,
way to a
that's
World
the thing.
Series? Didn't Texas literally win the World Series, and they literally bought their way there with people like Marcus
That
Semien
happens.
and
It
Corey
does happen.
Seager, and then Jacob DeGrom, and then who's the other pitcher that they picked up? Max
it's not
Scherzer,
inclusive.
and then I'm telling you that not all teams are. Yeah, they bought their way to the World Series 100%. But good on
okay.
them. Now the
Yeah.
fans are like,
you
yeah,
can,
we
do
love
it.
you.
It's
Good,
fun.
do that. Like, and that's
Yeah.
a bet. You know, other teams spent that
It's a
kind
bet,
of money
exactly.
too. I don't know if they were the largest payroll. They were one of the largest payrolls. But
Yeah.
I bet you if the Leafs could do that, they would be taking those swings. I'd be rather buying the
Yeah,
best
they-
players and trying to figure out what scrub I can plug on the fourth line.
Exactly.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Anyways, this was a great show, guys. Thanks again, Mickey Toohey, for coming on to our show. Lots of talk about the Avs, the Leafs, and what's going on around the league. Some crazy things happening. Lots of fun chatting with you boys about it. We will be back on Monday talking for Amherst Island Radio, so it's a clean episode. No more
Right.
swears.
Yeah,
no
we'll
more
get all our
swears, boys. Get all your
Fucks and
swears
shits out now. Okay.
Oh yeah, I wasn't gonna say that,
Good.
but just no more swears.
Okay.
I dropped my first one today, so
Yeah, that's why I laughed really
Monumental.
hard. I think you said damn the other day or shit, and I got a little chuckle, but you said fuck today, and well, there he is.
There he is.
Split the defense. Okay, we love you all. We'll catch you all on Tuesday. Peace.
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 You've been listening to
Split defense.
Where Jordan Webster, Ted Evans, and Craig Pearce talk about the NHL and all things hockey.
Split the defense.
Can be found wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. It's also broadcasted on Amherst Island Radio, 101.3 FM, and online at CJAI.CA.